Hi, I'm Bill Shell, Director of Food Resources for Miracle Hill Ministries. I'm here tonight to discuss our logistic operations at Miracle Hill and how that supplies our guests with their needs. I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you so much for having me here tonight to talk about my favorite topic, Miracle Hill, and what they do. Miracle Hill started back in 1937. During the Depression, or shortly after, with their first facility in downtown Greenville. And it was the Miracle Hill Rescue Mission for men. And it took men and provided them, homeless men, and provided them a place to stay temporarily. And that's how it got started. Can everybody hear me okay? I tend to wander a little bit, which is going to drive this guy crazy, but if it's okay, I will do that. But I have to go back up here to punch the screen button because the remote doesn't work. So they started first with the rescue mission, and shortly thereafter they opened an orphanage in Pickens County, Upper Pickens County, called the Miracle Hill Children's Home. And it was, back then they called them orphanages. And between those two facilities, that's how Miracle Hill got its start as a Christ-centered ministry, and it grew from there. And that's come to the point where we are today, and I'll show you the screen for that, but today we are a facility with about 650 people staying with us each night. Between our rescue missions, we have 4 homeless shelters, rescue missions, and we have 3 addiction recovery facilities between Greenville County, Spartanburg County, and Cherokee County, and that's where our footprint is.
We provide the bread of life and the bread of life. There's 2 different ones. I want to give them the word of Christ. That to me is the beginning of them coming out of wherever they are, whether it's addiction or financial hardship or abuse of any kind.
I remember when this sweet lady, we're going to call her Mary, came into our doors. She didn't speak any English. She just moved here from another state. And when she came through the doors, she was barefoot. We started talking, and she had a family of 4 little ones and a husband. And they didn't have any food or any resources. So she was in need of everything you can think of. I was able to connect her with a food warehouse where she got some groceries.
We have a counselor that is here every day, Patty Ashley, who takes care of guests when they come in. She's able to pray with them, counsel with them. She becomes a safety point for many of those people to come in and talk to her and receive food when they need it.
The first thing coming through the door is a warm welcome, more than anything else, because a lot of them are scared and they don't want to be here and they're afraid of what they're going to get. But I try to just make them feel comfortable, and that opens the door to a lot of things that I can help them with.
And I still remember the face of that 2-year-old when he saw the crackers, and he just grabbed that bag and opened it and started eating. To see a little one probably without dinner or lunch, I almost cried when that happened. I think a beautiful thing that we do as a ministry is that we not only give them food, but we talk to them and understand their situation. In this family situation, they needed everything from socks to sanitary products to food and even vitamins. So it was very beautiful to see how her necessities were met, but at the same time, we were able to give her something more, give her hope, give her a hug, give her words of encouragement. This sweet lady was very grateful after that.
We're only 5 employees in this whole rest of it is volunteers. They come in and we have people who sort and stock and face and pull out of dates, just like you would in a normal big box retailer. These people do that volunteer-wise.
I'm a retired business guy. I had run a rubber company in Ohio for a number of years. I was trying to do an errand at Tractor Supply, and I realized that I had walked into the Miracle Hill thrift store by accident. And once I got there, I began asking some questions, and that kind of hurt my heart a little bit to know that there was that much of a need here in Greenville County. My primary job is to go out with Hilton in the morning, and we have a regular route of stores that donate product to us. I only see the front part of it, right, where we're giving the food and carrying it out to their cars, but they're truly people in need, and I think that Miracle Hill has a great mission in taking care of broken people and rehabilitating them. Something I enjoy being a part of.
Here at the Food Warehouse, we operate in tens of thousands of pounds. A typical month is we receive 50-some thousand pounds of food in a typical month, and we distribute at least that much food in a typical month. And 99.9% of that is donated. And we're so grateful for all of our retailers and our wholesalers and our donors and everybody who supports this ministry. We can't say that too much, how grateful we are.
Individuals can lose morale because they may find themselves in a situation where they cannot provide for their families. So when someone comes into the food warehouse and we're able to give them something tangible as food and bread and some canned goods, we're giving dignity to them by realizing, yes, you have that need and we can meet that need. However, there's something else. We can give you hope through Jesus Christ.
The food warehouse is an integral part of the rescue aspect of Miracle Hill. They come here to sign up for a food box, and it's an open doorway for them to be able to get the help that they need.
This is our mission statement. Miracle Hill Ministries exists so that homeless children and adults receive food and shelter with compassion, hear the good news of Jesus Christ, and move toward healthy relationships and stability. And that's what they've strived for their entire 80-some years that they've been in existence to do that. It's not a heavy-handed approach. It's more of a light approach to some of their issues. We offer it. If people choose not to utilize it, that's perfectly fine. So that's what I think, that it feels a little more open and welcoming to a lot of people, and that's what we do. Myself, I'm the director of food resources at Miracle Hill, so for the 650 people we have each night, they eat. And they tend to eat a lot because a lot of them are expending a lot of calories during the day, fighting with their addictions or fighting with homelessness or fighting, the elements on the street. So when they come in, they're very hungry. We operate out of our small little facility over on Keith Drive. If you know where that is, the Humane Society in Greenville, that's where we operate. And out of our little facility, we operate two different missions. First of all, let's talk about the food pantry that we operate there. This is an emergency food pantry. So anyone who is in need of food can come there and sit down and talk to Patty, like I mentioned in the video, our counselor, and she'll fix them up with a box. We take the donations that we receive and we pair it out between our shelters and our emergency food program. That's how we divide it between the two. We'll give them it's about a 35-pound box of food, and it consists of produce, fresh. It consists of produce that we get as a donation. We give them a frozen meat, we give them canned food, starches, and some treats and snacks, cakes and pies and breads, things like that. Milk, or juice, or drinks if we have it. The other part that we have is called our end-use shopper. That's our shelters. So if you would visualize Costco, that's where our shelters come to shop as a Costco facility. It's like a Costco facility. So our guests who come in for food can receive one food box every 30 days. Now, we have a lot of clients or guests that come to our emergency food pantry each month. We have elderly people who are not able to work any longer. We have disabled, a whole variety of people who have to come each month and get a box of food, and that's perfectly okay. For those others, we offer help and counseling for employment or for financial resources, daycare, education, all the different resources. We partner with nonprofits all over Greenville County to offer them those opportunities to get back in the workflow. We also will do a budget. We'll sit down if they want, and we'll sit down with them and look through their income, their assets, and what they have income and what they have outgo, and try to give them a little bit of advice or counsel on where they can make some changes so that they're not having to come back each month for a food box. We get about anywhere from 20 to 30 people or families a day coming for emergency food, which is, we're a lot smaller than you've heard of Harvest Hope. We're a lot smaller than them, but our main business is our shelters. This is just a public side business, if you would. Compared 21 compared to 22, there were some dramatic differences. I'm not sure you can see this in the back, but if you can, you'll see the top line on the graph is 2022. The bottom graph is 2021. So you can see very well at the end of it what happened the last 3 months of last year. The need for food in emergency situations rose dramatically. I don't know entirely the cause. I have some guesses. Probably it's got to do with inflation and things like that. But we've seen a real uptick towards the end of the year, particularly in refugees from some of the some from Russia and Ukraine, and also immigrants from across the border to the south. Okay, this is where our biggest part of our operation is the end user shopping. We have 4 homeless shelters. We have one in Cherokee County, which houses men and women. We have one in Spartanburg, which houses men and women. We have a women's and children's homeless shelter here in Greenville called Shepherd's Gate. You may have heard of it. We have the Rescue Mission downtown for men. Those are our 4 homeless facilities. And they pretty much allow people to stay pretty much as long as they need. They all have counselors and resources there to help people so that they're not having to stay there as long as they probably would. But that's very important for them to utilize the counselors that are available. We also have 3 addiction recovery shelters. The renewal program for women has 2 different facilities in Greenville. A Overcomers program in Greenville is for men. These are 7-month in-house programs. They're intense. I mean, you don't go in there and work. You don't have outside employment. For the first few weeks, there's no outside visitors. They can make contact to the outside world, but it's really intense. Unfortunately, the national average for recovery and sobriety after 5 years is probably about 10% of all people in that situation. Our average runs about 20%. And I believe that's because of the intensity of the program. We offer them all sorts of different resources for everything from spiritual to physical. I particularly work with the men in the Overcomers program, and it's not uncommon at all for a man to come in there, a grown man to come in weighing 140, 150 pounds, in terrible shape, mentally and physically, just close to death. And within 6 months, 7 months, their brain has recovered to a great degree. Their body has recovered even more most of the time. They call it the Overcomer 40, that they put on 40 pounds while they were there for 7 months. And that's not unusual. The women have a similar program that mirrors the men's program. I'm not as familiar with that, but the success rate and the operations are pretty similar as well. The foster care program, we have what originally started out as the orphanage I spoke about earlier. That has now become a foster care program. Currently, we have about 100 to 125 foster families associated with Miracle Hill, and they are allowed to come to our facility, our little baby facility, and shop. And they come twice a month, and they can load up all they can fit in one of those big grocery carts, LBJ wholesale grocery carts. We got some of those, and they load up all they can fit in those things, and that helps them a lot. We also partner with a variety of different outside ministries. The way we get food is by donation. We rarely buy food. We may have a donor who wants to make a single purchase, and then that way we buy food. But ordinarily what we get is exclusively donations. So that's why sometimes we get more than we can handle of certain things. I'll give you an example. Costco, I don't shop there, but I would love to. I just don't have a membership. But Costco must go to a bunch of bananas because we get a lot of bananas from Costco. We probably get, on any given week, we'll probably get 8, 9 pallets of bananas. Now they're about that far from unusable, but we still get those and are able to use those. But we're able to share with other ministries around town. And that's the beauty of it, is we have partnerships with all kinds of smaller church-based and nonprofit ministries that distribute food too. Some of them street ministries, some of them church-based, some of them actually feeding ministries. When our organizations, our shelters come to us and shop, it's just like a shopping experience they would have at Costco. We have the big carts, they come in, they get their big cart, they wheel around to the shelves and pick out what they need. Everything from meat, produce, to drinks, to water, to canned goods. We have toiletries and toilet paper and different paper products to us. I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of them, but they're a great big commercial paper company that makes utensils and stuff for the restaurant industry. But they'll give us their damages, probably 6, 7 pallets a month. And these other ministries and our ministries get to go through those and pick through those and pick out what they can actually use. And that's a huge, huge help. And I welcome questions as we go through here. If you have questions you think of, just please yell it out. This is just some of the facts and figures that we put up here. I'm not going to read through all of this, but just a couple things. If you see that this is in our fiscal year, we served 1,559 people. That's through all of our shelters and through our emergency food program. We had 286 people in our recovery facilities, and we had 971 people in our, that came through our emergency food program. We generally, as I said before, we generally receive about 50 to 60,000 pounds of food donated to us every month, and that's about how much we distribute. Our big months, of course, are the holidays. We get probably 80% of what we use all year during the November, December time frame, and we have to parcel it out. The temptations, when we get this stock like we're in right now, the inventory position we're in right now is for the shelters to come in and really go through there and hoard it up. But we have to measure it out for them, so it will last all year. We're trying to be good stewards. Okay, so our facilities, we're tiny. Like I said before, our food warehouse is a little over 25,000 square feet. It's on 1.37 acres on Keith Drive, over by the Humane Society, near the downtown airport. It used to be, for those of you who've been in Greenville for a long time, it used to be Ben Swinger Glass, if you know what that building is. We have 3 loading docks. We have a drive-through for vehicles to pull in, like our vans and stuff from our shelters can pull in and stay dry and load up their, the stuff that they're getting, and they can drive right out the back and out the door. They go. We also have some container storage, and we have a large palletized freezer and refrigerator for our produce. Now, one thing that's unique about produce is that we get a lot. We get a lot of produce. The produce we receive typically is produce that's donated that's not viable for sale. So this is where the real genius of our kitchen managers come from. Our kitchen managers at our facilities generally come from the population of our guests. But from that group, there's always some culinary people, staying with us. So what they do is they take that produce that's not viable for sale, and somehow they make it into really good meals. They pick through it, and we have some farmers that we work with that will come pick up what we can't use at all, and that's how we get the fresh produce. That's essential. When you take someone who should weigh 190 pounds, and they come in weighing 130 pounds, to rebuild their bodies, their minds, their spirit, you have to give them some good nourishment. And that is where the challenge comes in for our kitchen managers, is taking that product, which is unviable for sale. You and I probably wouldn't buy it if we were shopping for it, and making it into something that's very nice, very edible. All right, so every day, 5 to 6 days a week, we take our 4 trucks. We usually have 2 on the road at each time. We take those refrigerated trucks and we go around to our regular donors. Costco, for example, Costco donates probably 25 to 30,000 pounds a month to us, and that's essential for us. I don't know what we do without Costco. Food Line, Publix, Aldi, and Lidl also contribute. Food Line is a large, particularly one store in particular, is a large donor to us down in Simpsonville. That's a great store. Donations, we also receive donations from food drives. We receive donations from Bob Jones University, North Greenville University, Greenville Tech, all the local schools, civic groups, businesses, different manufacturers. We frequently we've actually taken our business cards and posted them around at the truck stops and for the truckers. We frequently get calls from logistics operations saying, hey, look, I'm stuck here with a pallet of chicken nuggets that Food Line rejected. Can you all take these chicken nuggets? We punched a hole in the bottom box with a forklift, now they're rejecting the whole pallet. So they call us and we said, thank you. You know, whoever that forklift operator is, thank you very much. We also do get sometimes donations from other ministries. There's a ministry in Easley, food ministry, that gets a lot of donations. They help us out. But we do share. That is one thing about the Greenville area, is the nonprofits do not compete. They do help each other an awful lot, and that really makes a difference. We get a lot of donations from individual donors. We've come up this past year, we started being able to have people order through Amazon or Instacart, and we try to make it as easy as possible. So if you have an Instacart account and you want to go grocery shopping, you just put the address in for our food warehouse and they deliver whatever it is you decide to donate to us. And so it makes it a little bit easier for everybody to do that. And it has helped tremendously. Okay. I left a little time for questions and anything else. Yes, sir.
So, do you get a schedule with these donating facilities? Like, hey, every Thursday at 5 o'clock we come to Costco?
Well, and that's a good question. Because the perishable nature of the donations we get from retailers, particularly grocery stores, because of that perishable nature, we go every day, typically. Now, like a Lidl, we might only go once a week, because they have a lot less donations. They're just not as big an operation. But Costco, where they're 6 days a week, Food Line, the 2 food lines we go to on a regular basis, we go 5 days a week, 6 days a week for one. Yeah, good question. Yes, sir.
So, when I signed up on there, you said 60,000 pounds per month is what you give out,
Mm-hmm.
and then you said 80% of it comes at the end of the year,
Right.
and so your peak inventory months would be November or December.
That would be right about now. We're actually probably topping out. I'm just making a wild guess of it's hard to keep up with that kind of inventory, but it's about 125 to 130,000 pounds in the warehouse right now.
Okay, and that leads me to the next thing, is there was another ministry or another support organization where their warehouse flooded due to whatever, and they had, all kinds of food and stuff in it, and it's lost. And my question to you is, what does Miracle Hill do to make sure that something like that doesn't happen to you, and what's changed since their accident?
Well, I'm glad to report Harvest Hope is back online. They are doing a food drive as of, was it today? They did a big food drive? Anyway, it's today or tomorrow. They did a big food drive over in Greer to replenish some of their canned foods. If you take the canned foods and wet them down, the food might still be good, but your labels all wash off. And so you really don't know what you got. So that's where they're at right now. They are recovering. A lot of it is just experience in knowing when we're going to be in sub-zero or sub in the teens, the single digits, we leave heat. Our heat is, we continue to leave it on in parts of our warehouse so that we don't experience some of those problems. Our facility is very old. It was built in the 40s. So it's a very old facility. We constantly are having maintenance issues. Today we got a door that's stuck halfway open, so it's unsecure, so we're having to figure that out tonight. I may be sleeping there. Does that cover what your question
Well,
was?
another piece would be, is there alarms that if any water is on if I kicked over a bucket on the floor, it should trip an alarm somewhere, maybe bigger than a bucket, maybe.
Yeah, right.
It should trigger an alarm somewhere, because if there's nobody in the facility, you won't know until.
That's right.
So.
And our greatest loss, to go back to your point, which is a great question, I just purchased 2 days ago an alarm for our freezer. And that would be our biggest danger of losing what we have in the freezer. That's where our meat is, all the expensive stuff is there in that freezer. And so we did just get an alarm through Amazon that I'll be able to monitor with my phone through that. I came from the background, my background is with a large retail. And to walk into the nonprofit world is certainly a culture shock. Every penny is pinched till it screams. It is just unbelievable. When I got there, I was like, oh my goodness, you're expecting us to do what with what? And we're supposed to do this? But it works somehow. We pray a lot, we talk to people a lot in groups and things like that, and somehow it all works out. It's amazing. It's amazing to me. It says our name is Miracle Hill. And to see the number of times that things happen that are so unexplained is just awesome. You know, it was one day not long ago, we were in a meeting, we have a morning meeting in which we talk about what's going to be happening for the day, you know, pray, whatever the needs are. And we were sitting in that meeting and we said, we haven't seen anything from Frito-Lay in about 6 months. Whatever happened to Frito-Lay? We really would like to have some chips for our shelters. We didn't get out of that meeting until the phone rang while I was sitting beside me on the chair, and it was the guy from Frito-Lay. I mean, I just got chills right up my neck. You know, it's like, wow, that's incredible. They donated 6 pallets of chips, and we had just talked about that, and it's been just part of our prayers. It's what we do for snacks. But yeah, that's a good, I laugh at it a lot.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Your trucks and your maintenance, when you get those services done, do people donate those services to you to like maintain your trucks, or your truck breaks down? Since you're a nonprofit, do garages say, hey, we'll take care of you, or you buy the parts and we'll do the service?
Good question. Both. The answer is yes. To all that. We have a couple of facilities, smaller facilities around Greenville County that do help us tremendously. They'll squeeze us in. Since we only have 4 refrigerated trucks, when we go down a truck, we're hurt. With only 5 employees at food distribution, when we go down a person, we're hurt. So they do help us. However, we probably pay for the most of our maintenance. We have a fleet service that comes around. They do a real good job. I don't think they've negotiated a deal with them. I don't believe. I think we pay, you know, whatever the price going rate is for that. But we also have, we work with 13, we work with Carrier, we work with the other people like that to do the fleet. And it's not our tires, to do our truck services. So, good question. That's one of our goals. Get some more of that. Yes, sir.
How did you manage all those shelters during COVID? And also, we also, all of us affected by shortage in groceries. Did it affect the donation?
It did. It did. In not ways that I expected. I took this job in June of 2022. And before that, I was the procurement manager for the facility. So I went out and chased down food and stuff like that. It both helped us and hurt us. Because of some of the shopping irregularities, we actually got more of certain items. Because once the grocery stores, once the retailers were shipped and they weren't being sold, then they had to get rid of it. And so they gave it to the nonprofits. On the other hand, we ran dangerously short of paper products, last year. So that was one of the things we put out in our advertisements and our website this recently, is a plea, a call for toilet paper and paper towels and all kinds of different hygiene items and things like that. And, yes, it did. It affected us both ways, actually. It's funny because I see the freezer. I watch the freezer very carefully. That's my biggest thing. Every day I go in there and look and see where we're at inventory wise in the freezer. And some days I'll go in there and it makes me kind of nervous. But then with that explanation, somebody will call. Somebody will show up. We have trucks just show up at the door and say, here's some frozen whatever it is. Would you take it? We're desperately in need of fresh produce all the time. We had a truck just 2 weeks ago bring us 3 pallets of cut fruit. So our staff didn't even have to cut up the fruit. They just took this and went with it. So yes. Yes, sir.
When you're talking about donors coming in and providing the gifts, right? So they're coming into your facility with their trucks. Then you said you had trucks going around. So I guess with the nature of donations, it seems like you would have a lot of out and back trips with the trucks.
Well, that's where when I retired, I went to work for Loaves and Fishes, which is another nonprofit in Greenville that picks up food donations too. But that's all they do. They don't store it, they just give it immediately. And as the operation coordinator there, I learned how to fill up trucks and get rid of it in a day. And so that has helped me an awful lot in this job. When the trucks come in, we send out 2 trucks every day, and they hit 4 locations a day. And they bring it back to us, we sort it, we stage it, we cull it, anything that's not edible, we throw it away, or give it to the farmers, and we freeze it or refrigerate it. Yes, that's right, that's how we.
So it would be an occasion where they call it a milk run, where you start at one location and you hit 4 other locations, and then you come back and you do that a second time and a third time per day. But it seems like it's more of a out and back operation.
What we do is we hit 3 locations, like we have 1 truck that runs towards Simpsonville. They do the 3 locations at Simpsonville and Woodruff Road, and they come back and they unload. By that time, they get 3 grocery stores. They're pretty well full in a 20-foot box truck. And then the second truck will go out and hit north, and they'll hit Greer and northern Greenville County, and then they'll come back and unload.
Okay.
And then we'll do our final stop at Costco, which usually takes a couple of people, and we'll take a larger truck and go out to Costco, fill it up, bring it back, and sort through it, stage it. The sorting and staging of food in our operation is a big part of our day.
You said you only have 5 employees that
Yes, sir.
sort food and drive and pick it up?
Yes, sir.
And you're able to fill up 4 trucks every day and unload all of it and sort it?
Yes, sir.
For 5 people?
We have volunteers too.
Yeah.
We have, and we welcome volunteers. We have we try to have 2 to 3 volunteers a day to either send out with our trucks or help us when we get back and sort through it. We also are able to use men in our Overcomers program. They gladly will come over and help. Anything to get them out of the building. They come over and they're glad. We give them free pastries too. So, that answer it?
Yeah, no, I was just trying to figure out the man hours of it.
I do
It's a lot
too.
of work.
I try to figure out the man hours too. Sometimes I can't.
What time of the day do you start and when do you finish?
We usually start about 6:30, and our first trucks will be out by 8, and they'll finish up about noon. We're wrapping up. It gets really quiet in the afternoon. It's a great time to sort, to go through our canned food, and to let our farmers in and people like that so we can distribute it. Yes, sir.
So, in the south, there's a lot of hunting going on. The deer season we just got out of deer season. So, do you get any donations from processing plants and/or hunters?
Yes, sir. We sure do. We have venison in our freezers. Yeah. And the shelters love it. Yeah, they love it. Because one thing we don't get a lot of is beef. So anything that will resemble beef, they like. Yes, sir.
To Michael's point about your man up, so teach operations management at, so is there a process in place that you guys follow, or is it just come in and get it done? Because it'd be interesting if you had a set process in place, a little bit be more efficient for you, as a whole. So do you guys have a process, this is how we do things, or is it just get it done and
And once again, the answer to your question is yes. We have a rough skeleton that we work by each day. Each driver knows which truck they're gonna be using. They roughly know which volunteer they're gonna take. That's probably one of the things I need to tweak the most, is be able to get our volunteers in a more routine basis. Right now, we're lucky when we get two a day to help us, but that's where one thing I need to work on. But yes, we have a rough structure which each driver will take his truck and he will hit those 3 locations, come back and unload, and if he has a second run, he'll do that. Then the afternoon, like I said, is spent primarily with organization and going through the food, distributing to the shelters. We encourage our shelters and our foster care and our outside agencies that we work with, we encourage them in the afternoon. Sometimes they hit right mid-morning when we got 2 trucks lined up and forklifts running all over and pallet jacks and everything. Sometimes they'll hit then, and then it gets kind of hairy for a lot of people to be running around shopping. But yeah, we try to shopping more in the afternoon, delivery more in the morning. Good question. Yes.
Is the decision about particular stores donating stuff, is that made like on a local level or a
Oh,
corporate
that's a
level?
really good question. So here's how this works nationally. Feeding America is the overriding umbrella organization in this nation for food donations. Feeding America is a nationwide organization. Each area has its own Feeding America location. So Harvest Hope is the Feeding America affiliate for this area. There's one in Spartanburg and there's one in Anderson also. What they do, because they nationally contract with these retailers, they nationally contract with restaurants to be a Feeding America donor. Feeding America here cannot staff or pick up everything that's being given to them on their plate. So they partner with us and say, if you'll go pick this up as a partner of Feeding America, we'll get it to you. And so, yeah, that's how, and sometimes it works vice versa. I was working with a wholesale produce facility recently, and we would get a truckload of lettuce. Now, yes, we have 650 people a day, but we're not going to go through a truckload of lettuce with 650 people a day before that lettuce goes. So therefore, we share it with Harvest Hope, and then they share it with a bunch more agencies too. Particularly for perishables, that's our trickiest operation for perishables. Great question, yes sir.
Does it seem like Miracle Hill is meeting the need of the community, or is expansion necessary?
That's a great question. Food-wise, in partnership with all the other nonprofits, probably, it's getting close. Unfortunately, when I go back and start thinking about the explosion of Greenville County, the advent of methamphetamine and fentanyl and those kind of drugs, those programs are probably not meeting the needs because there's so much of it. It crosses every boundary that you can even conceive. It goes from super wealthy to the homeless guy on the street. And that's the sad part. That's the part where I feel most drawn, and I love working with those guys in those programs because they are so much in need of every kind of support there is. Be it spiritual, be it just coming alongside them, put your arm around them and say, hey, what's going on in your life today? And a lot of these people, a lot of these guys in particular, they've never had somebody do that. They come from situations in which never in their life has someone come up beside them and go, how's it going? What's up, dude? You know, what's going on? And you can see a grown man, evolve and change almost before your very eyes. when that kind of care and compassion is shown. And that's what I think Miracle Hill's pretty good at, is bringing those people in, putting your arms around them, and just loving them. Good question, thank you.
So you said you get a lot of your materials at the end of the year, and you sparse it out throughout the year.
Yes.
How do you make the decisions on how to distribute it out every month?
Well, a lot of that is made by the kitchen managers of our shelters. So let's say, for example, the Greenville Rescue Mission downtown probably has 150 average guys that stay there every night. They come every single day. They go in that freezer, they go in that refrigerator, they go up and down the aisles, they go through the paper goods, they go through the water, and they pile it in there. They probably use 1,000 pounds a day at the Rainbow Rescue Mission. Now, Shepherd's Gate, on the other hand, the shelter for women and children, Shepherd's Gate gets so much community support that they probably only come in once a week. People in Greenville they're so great at supporting, like the Women and Children's Homeless Shelter, that they get all kinds of donations there. Everything from prepared foods that they can simply go in and heat up and eat up, to every kind of paper goods and everything else gets directly donated to those shelters, which helps us as a food warehouse a lot too. But that's pretty much how it is. They govern themselves on how much we take. The foster care families, the only governing we do with them when they come in is they are allowed one of the big BJ wholesale grocery carts to shop with, and that they can come in twice a month for that. And that's really the only regulations we have on that. Outside agencies, I generally handle all that. When I see that we have an excess of something, or if I see we have a severe need of something, that's where I get online. There's several umbrella organizations in Greenville County. I can get online and say, we've got, matter of fact, I did that today. We have a pallet of turkeys that the grocery store has just given us from the holiday season. They're frozen. Does anybody want these? And so, hopefully by the time I get to work tomorrow, somebody will want a pallet of turkeys. That good?
Yeah, I mean, other than the fact I was thinking, didn't know if you had some kind of trend calculation you use to say, oh, well, I get, 8 pallets of noodles in November, and I gotta make it last all year, while I can only give so many cases out a month.
We do that with stuff we buy. We typically will let people have whatever they need on stuff that's donated, but the stuff we purchase, we actually kind of keep in a cage, so that it's regulated a lot more closely. Yes, sir.
And I guess related to that, I suppose, if we use the skins or the barcodes that are inside of the cans to check in what you have and check out what you give away.
That'd be my dream.
Okay.
That is absolutely my dream, is to be able to get, there are apps out there are programs out there to do that for nonprofits. We're not quite there yet. I'd love to be there. But it would be difficult when a truck pulls up with, 2,000 pounds of loose food, a variety of different organizations to read their barcodes and stuff. It's a challenge, but it's not overwhelming. That's one thing I learned when I came here, from being in a retail operation, a national retail operation. Everything was, like this. Everything had its space. Everything had an organization. Nonprofits are, what's the best term, loosey-goosey. It's run by the seat of your pants a lot of times. And that can be fun, or it can make you pull your hair out. Either way, it can do it. Yes, sir.
Some states don't put Best By dates on the food sold in their grocery stores. But if you didn't have Best By dates, would your, inventory drastically go down? Because then you wouldn't get stuff from grocery stores.
What we would have to do, if we didn't have Best By dates, we would have to figure out a way to do it ourselves. And I don't know how we would do that. Maybe with the Feeding America organization would require it. That's where we can get the help from the national impact and the influence of a national organization like that and the contracts. And that's where we do get benefit from those contracts is with the retailers. If they put a little pressure on, you want us to take all this excess, gladly, we'll take it, we'll give you a write-off. Here's what we need in return. We need a little bit of quality control, and they do that. We have quality control at the grocery stores for our donations. There is a set procedure at each grocery store for doing those donations. Yes.
So the difference between the support for the women's shelter and the men's shelter is pretty drastic. Do you guys have any community opportunities or events that are trying to draw support towards those men's shelters?
Yes, we do. Greenville Rescue Mission is widely known. Everybody knows, it's downtown, it's right in the center of everything, so everybody knows. They get quite a bit. The Overcomers program, on the other hand, is a little bit more quiet. It's in an old monastery on Pleasantburg Drive near Bob Jones University. It's quite a place. And we have events throughout the year that focus in on overcomers and trying to draw attention to them and support them. I know Jeff Lynch does one. That one comes to mind immediately. But there's several others that do that kind of support for the men's program. We really try to reach out to churches and see if we can get men to mentor those guys in the program, because if I had to pick just one thing that I could refer to as essential, it's getting a good mentor assigned to each man in that program that can take him to church, put their arm around him and say, hey, look, here's my friend I'm bringing to church. Let's get this guy involved in what we're doing. Let's get this guy, connected with employment. Let's get this guy connected with some financial resources. And that's all volunteer based. We have a volunteer coordinator, but otherwise it's all volunteer work.
So tackle on that, I'm sorry. Would you say that your biggest need as a Miracle Home Ministry right now is in people more so than food?
Well, just as of today, yes. But as it gets, the funny thing about the food and the supplies is when it comes to May, June, July, everybody's on vacation, kids are out of school, people are going this way and that. There's very few food drives. And that's when we see our inventory dive dramatically in the May, June, July, and August time frame. Because nobody really wants to get involved in that kind of thing at that point. So yes, if I would encourage anything at that point, it would be to, if I could drum up, and that's my job, is to drum up the donations during the dry season of that. And yes, human volunteers are desperately needed. Yes, sir.
That quality control process you talked about at the supermarkets, is that in coordination with the FDA?
I think they would use those as their overriding guidelines. I'm not familiar with all the details of what Feeding America requires in the grocery stores. Feeding America has requirements for its individual partner food pantries, like all the code, keeping the product this far off the floor and moving it this far from the wall, and rodent and pest control, all that stuff, logging our freezer and cooler temperatures, things like that, is all part of the overriding umbrella of regulations for Feeding America. Now, the grocery store regs, I'm not sure, I know they have them, and I see their signage when I'm in the grocery stores, in the back rooms, and the freezers and such, but I'm not that up to speed on what it is.
FDA doesn't come to you at all, though?
South Carolina Department of Agriculture does.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know whether they have an agreement, I don't know how that works, but yes, we're inspected by them. Yes.
Yeah, one more question.
Yes, sir.
So let's say you got $200 today in donations and canned food. Would you rather take the canned food or would you rather take the $200? Because as you said, you have to store inventory and you can probably get deals being a nonprofit from farmers and get fresher produce if you had money.
We would love that. Either way helps us. I mean, either way it's going to go. We have a list on our website. If you want to go to our website and look at the food warehouse portion, it'll show you a specific list of our needs right now. And it's weird stuff sometimes. It's like mayonnaise, salad dressing, pasta sauce, sugar, coffee, underwear, always coffee, always sugar. There's one aspect of addiction that I wasn't aware of is that it creates a need for sweets. And so we go through a lot of sweets, as they're coming out of addiction. And it creates a need for coffee. So that's always an essential. Is that?
Well, no, I read something once talking about how food banks can do more with $1 than we can. So like I spent $3 on a can of soup for you guys today. You might be able to get something, for a quarter of the price that I paid. So I always wondered if you prefer dollars over than cans.
We occasionally run across someone who's willing to give us a discount, but primarily, in my 8 years of doing this, it's mostly we buy at retail, generally. Sometimes we're able to work out donation deals, but generally when we buy, it's usually at retail. Now, what we have done, and what this really works well, is we'll have an individual who says, I want to donate $500, can I go shopping with you? And that really is great, because it gives that donor a chance to physically go out with me to Sam's Club and buy a whole pallet of milk. That's a treat for everyone. And milk's one of those things we can't keep. It's just, it's just a great thing to have, and we just don't have it. Good question. Yes, sir.
Bill, I think one of your statistics on your slide was talking about containers.
Yes.
Is there a size of a container that you're bringing in, or it's not one of the TEU things that go from rails to trucks?
It's the Connex. It's just the typical Connex container. I can't remember what length it is. Probably, or do it. I don't know what the generic one. I think it's
40, usually 20 by 20.
Yeah, 20.
They come in 20 and then 40.
Okay. Sounds good. Working on that. Yes. That's generally, we only use one right now for food warehouse. I think some of our other facilities do have Connexes or containers. Yes.
So I have a question about your waste process with the produce.
Yes.
So are you selling that to the farmers as compostable material, or what's the situation with that?
No, because we are so glad to have it out and not have, our tipping expenses, our dumpster expenses were tremendous. And I found a couple farmers to work with last year, and they come in and they load up an entire, and they had one of those farm trailers, really long farm trailers, and a Suburban to the point where it's squatting. And they loaded up with breads and produce. And so that's what we do. We cut our dumpsters in half based on that. That's been one of my personal goals, is to not be able to not waste so much. It's funny because when I first came into this from retirement, from my other job, my other life, I couldn't believe the amount of bread, cakes, and pies that were being donated on a daily basis. And finally, my curiosity got a hold of me. So I went to a grocer and I said, how is it that you guys donate so many hundreds of thousands of pounds of breads and cakes and pies? And they said it's so cheap to produce. I didn't know that. I didn't have any idea that they just overproduce in every store in order to give a customer a really great selection of whatever they want. I don't know the ins and outs of bakery. I came from the pharmacy industry, so I can't speak to that. But it's tremendous. We go through a lot of waste of bread. Yes, sir.
How do those people in need know about your place?
Oh, good question. In Greenville County, there's a phone number that they can dial us 211. It'll give them a list of resources, not only for food, but for a variety of other things. If try it sometime, just call 211 and you can hear what those resources are. Then there's this like, this unspoken network too. We get refugees right now that are coming into the country are scared. They're wary. They're very wary of anywhere new, I guess because of what they've been through. But there's a network of communication amongst them in the upstate in particular, and they find out where they can come and be safe. And, you know,
Yeah, the reason I'm asking because like a couple of years ago, I saw somebody like on Woodruff Road where it used to be acre, he used to sleep over there in the cold weather for about a month, outside. So I was wondering, like nobody told him where to go and what to do.
right. And in my, I can just give you anecdotal experience. My experience with individuals like that, some want to be there, honestly, as hard as that is for us to wrap our heads around. I've met quite a few people who want to be in that environment. We have what we call a cold weather shelter. Anytime it goes below 40 degrees, we open up our shelters to anyone, drunk or sober. They come in, they stay on a mat in the gym or the chapel or wherever it is, and then they leave the next morning. But I'd say there's a lot of drug use in that community, and there's a lot of all kinds of different things that add into that. But drug use, mental illness, I think we could do a better job in Greenville with supporting our mental illness medical side of things. What we have does a great job, but it's just not enough for that. Good question. Yes.
I was just wondering, are there any shelters in Greenville that most people with animals could go to? Because there's a guy in Travelers Rest who has a dog, and I don't know if you're familiar with like Nextdoor, that social app. He's always at the Publix, but you know, people have a relationship with him, but he doesn't go to the shelter because he has a dog, and people love that dog. I mean, that dog is really well fed. But you know, like his thing is he doesn't want to go to a shelter because he doesn't want to give up his dog.
Yeah, and I understand that, and I hear that, and I don't know of a shelter that does that personally. There may be a church-based shelter that does that, but I'm not aware of it. But yeah, that cuts my heart to that or hear it.
I always kind of think if, you know, for homeless people, having an animal is really a source of comfort and companionship.
Yes,
So it's like
emotional support.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me, it's just amazing to me how many people live in their cars. I had no idea that's where such a large homeless population was. But with kids, I mean, I can't even wrap my head around how it would be to have two kids and live with them in your car for an extended period of time. I just can't imagine. But they do. They do. You see them in a lot of parking lots. You see cars with the windows covered over and things like that. That's what. And they frequently come to our emergency food pantry. Good. Yeah, good. Any other